Hello, you're listening to Doc and Lefty. This is Doc. My beard is a little off kilter today. Oh, that's why. There you go. Now it's looking straight. Good deal. How you been, Blake?
Not too bad. How are you?
I'm doing well. You know, we have a special guest today, State Senator Dennis Guth. I think that's how he pronounces his name.
I've heard it as a lot of things, but I think Guth is
Guth?
what it is. But he'll be able to speak for himself.
That's right. He'll be here for our next segment. He's parking downstairs. There's construction all over downtown, creating quite a mess. Speaking of messes, there is a whole lot of mess going on in Boston. There's a lot of, CNN blew it pretty big.
Yeah.
That's made all the news. And, even Jon Stewart made fun of him. And if you haven't seen that video, it's pretty funny.
I could not believe it. The correspondent talking about the bomb going off is unreal.
Oh, yeah. It's just incredible. And then from my perspective, they had Boston locked down. And there's a lot of memes on Facebook, about, the comparing that to the Nazis. I don't think that's any comparison. But however, that's kind of way it's being portrayed. Both the right and the left, for different reasons, are upset about that. There was a lot of misinformation, and now they're starting to link these people in with terrorist bombers from Chechnya that were Russian.
That's who's doing that?
Well,
just people.
Well, no, that was the FBI is looking into it. There's a department, the DHS, not Department of Human Services, whatever it stands for federally.
Well, because yesterday, the last I had heard about this, when he started answering some questions yesterday, and they had his initial appearance from a magistrate judge and had a whole bunch of lawyers in his hospital room, and what he said to the judge and everybody else was, or not to the judge, but to the investigators who are asking questions, was, we acted by ourselves, we did it because we're Muslims out of religious fervor, and we're not linked to any international or any other terrorist syndicate anywhere else in the world. Right before I came up, I saw there was a headline that they had been combing through electronic data, because both these guys are pretty active on Facebook and other social medias types, and texted a lot. So going through text messages, going through websites and Facebook accounts and different things, and have found no information that these guys were connected to anybody else or that there are any other accomplices. It's looking like, and they're starting to sort of conclusively say, these guys acted by themselves, they sort of got radicalized by themselves, and they just decided to do it because they read about how to make kettle or pressure cooker bombs from a magazine that Al-Qaeda publishes on the internet.
Okay.
So it really, and I wanted to pick your brain about it a little bit too, because your connection to that whole southern Russian area, Chechnya is not too far from the Ukraine. And I know that you know the region pretty well. And did you find it at all disconcerting that first of all, it was just a bummer once again to have a region known for its Islamic population to pop up and it linked to a terrorist sort of attack. But did you find it disconcerting at all that immediately that link was made to these folks, because Chechnya has always been a friend of the United States?
Well, that's not necessarily true. The United States has a vested interest in trying to make the Russians look like idiots, just like they have a vested interest in making us look like idiots. So we did give the Chechen rebels a lot of support until they started doing things like Beslan. You have to keep in mind that these Chechnyan terrorists, the Chechnyan freedom fighters, if you want to call them that, were responsible for the worst mass murder of children in history at Beslan, Russia, where they used bombs and everything else. Mm-hmm. It was the United States has never officially supported Chechnya. It's all that simply because of we have the Russians staring us in the face. But I do know that covertly we did support them for a while. What essentially happened with the Chechnyans is they mobified themselves, for the lack of a better term, and that is they split into several criminal factions, and that's what it devolved into. and it sits, like last year was Georgia got invaded by the Russians. Mm-hmm. Well, North and South Ossetia are are right next door and part of Chechnya, this ethnic region.
Sure. Well, I guess what I'm talking about more, I guess, is more sort of like the historical linkages between the West and Chechnya, not necessarily that the United States has an official position, but that Chechnyans have not had a problem with the United States the way that, say, Pakistanis and Afghans do.
Well, that's absolutely true.
That's more the point, because we remember from post-World War II when Stalin deported the entire population of Chechnya to Siberia and I think the Ukraine. Just kicked them out of the country because they rose up against the Soviet regime. And we had a little bit to say about that at the time. We didn't really get involved, but we offered support. Absolutely. And a lot of Chechen refugees came to the United States and established communities like in Boston and elsewhere in the country. So the idea that Chechnya is this radicalized area bent on American destruction that I've heard a lot of people kind of talk about is completely wrong.
Yeah, it's completely wrong. I would agree with that. They're much more hateful of the Russians.
Yes, they really hate the Russians. They hate the Russians.
So they want to get them an awful lot. We're going to take just a quick break. Our special guest, State Senator Dennis Guth, is with us today. He's in our studio now. We'll be back right after the break. Please listen for our sponsors, either the people that help us keep the doors open. We'll be back right after this. You're listening to Doc and Lefty on webcast1live.com.
Petrosh & Associates, how can I help you?
Petrosh & Associates will provide you with a friendly, caring, and confidential place to find help for mental health concerns. We are ready for your call. Our doctor, Dr. J. Patrick Petrosh, provides a full range of psychiatric services for children, adolescents, and adults in a forthright and informative manner while maintaining a casual, comfortable, and relaxed atmosphere.
Drug and alcohol addiction slowly steals a person's identity, tearing away pieces of their life little by little until one day it seems like the hope of a happy future is gone and there's no chance of getting it back. Here at St. Gregory Retreat Centers, we can assure you that there is hope. Our unique approach to recovery begins with the understanding that the dysfunction and damage caused by addiction can be overcome, not just dealt with. Don't let another day go by. Call St. Gregory today.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Welcome back to the show. This is Lefty coming at you while the good doctor assists our guest. We've got State Senator Dennis Guth from the 4th District, I believe.
That's correct.
Winnebago, Emmett, Kossuth, Hancock, Wright. Did I forget anybody?
That's it.
That's your right up next to the border.
That's right.
You're way in the north, and he's been kind enough to come on down here and talk about some different issues, but primarily, and I hope that you made this clear, that we were interested in talking to you because I think this is the first. Is this the first media appearance you've made since you kind of kicked up a little bit of a firestorm last week on the floor of the Senate?
Yes, I did. I was interviewed by a couple of TV stations that afternoon.
Okay.
I haven't had much other media contact since then.
Did they? How lengthy were those interviews?
Oh, those interviews were about 3 minutes.
So you didn't. There was not a lot of context going on. Probably, I'm just assuming. I didn't see any of them. Not maybe a lot of. And I believe in your comments you called it a day of dialogue. Was there a lot of dialogue going on, Senator?
No, the only dialogue there's been since that time has been more or less 2 separate monologues. There hasn't been any dialogue at all. Not being able to bring them together. And I think, Doc, that was sort of because I was surprised. I'm going to be honest with you guys. I had mentioned, and I was going to make a comment about it since we only do this show weekly, just as kind of passing, like, hey, what's going on in the Senate? This was kind of a weird thing that happened, and this is what people are talking about. And I mentioned it to Doc when we were talking about playing on the show, and about an hour later, he texted me back, says that you agreed to come on, and I think that's so awesome, and I really do appreciate you being here.
We do appreciate you being here to discuss this. Having been in the middle of a controversial firestorm myself, I can just imagine what's going on with this. First of all, tell us a little bit about yourself. Why you decided to run for Senate, decided to run to represent the good citizens of Iowa.
Well, I've never really aspired to be a politician any time in my life.
Well, that's always good.
I thought so. I've been a farmer my whole life, and just was becoming upset with the direction I saw our state and nation going, where we're getting more and more in debt, and we're also changing the moral structure of our state and our nation without really even getting the people involved. The thing that really pushed me over the edge was 2009, when the Supreme Court came out and said that we were going to have to begin recognizing same-sex couples that wanted to get a marriage license, and decided that the legislature and the people of Iowa were not going to have any voice in that. So at that time, I decided I was going to get involved, and we began a grassroots organization. At that time, we called that Love Iowa. LUV stands for Let Us Vote.
All right. Now, I'm pretty familiar with that. Being conservative, they're at all these grassroots things. They're not associated with the Tea Party, but they're at a lot of Tea Party rallies, conservative breakfasts, and things like that. Now, Lefty and I were talking a little bit before you came up. Apparently, you pretty much stomped this guy that you ran against. Apparently, your message up in your district was a very strong message.
I didn't hide any of my opinions, and that's what the people of my district knew they were getting when they elected me.
Well, I do have to apologize, because when we talked about, I like to try and when we have guests, we don't do it very often. As people who listen to the show know, that's usually just Doc and I kind of yammering back and forth. And so I did a little bit of looking into sort of what, because I'll be honest with you, when I heard this stuff, first of all, District 4, not the biggest. Not the biggest district population-wise. It's right up there by the Minnesota border, so I'm sure that you guys don't feel like Des Moines listens to you very much.
That's correct.
I'm from Plymouth County originally, right. Tucked way up there by South Dakota and Nebraska and stuff. So a
fellow Iowegian,
know a little bit about being from the northern area of the state and how the folks in the other areas don't really think too much about us. But I was curious, because the stuff that you brought up was during the Senate sort of privileged time, I believe. Can you explain a little bit about why they got brought up and what exactly was going on when that happened?
Well, in the morning when we first gavel in, we have a period for announcements and then personal points of privilege. We talk about a variety of different things. It's an opportunity for us in the Senate to talk about gun control, what's going on at the health debate, and all that different sort of thing. And since there was what is called the Day of Dialogue, a focus on the family actually initiated the Day of Dialogue in response to the Day of Silence, which comes on, I believe that was last Friday, and the Day of Dialogue was last Thursday. I spoke on Wednesday to give a little information about the Day of Dialogue. And
had the rest of had your Senate leadership known about this at all?
I had informed the leadership that I was going to be speaking, and they had not seen any of my script or anything, but they knew I was going to be speaking about that topic.
Okay, because that's been, I think, been misreported, and I think that maybe it's been a little unfairly attributed that you just are this rogue guy that kind of went off the rails, so to speak. Because I don't think that's true, and the reason I don't think that's true, because a lot of the times when liberals like myself hear these kinds of things, we think, well, there must be some sort of weird motivation going on, because it's hard for us to kind of understand a little bit where folks are coming from. I don't think that's a liberal symptom, but I think it happens every once in a while. And so I looked in, because not knowing anything about you at all, and not having any preconceived notions about you as a person or what your motivations were, I looked in, and your district is split. There is about in 2013, about 11,000 registered Democrats, about 15,000 registered Republicans, and a lot of independents. I think you're mostly an independent Senate district. And so I was kind of surprised, given what we hear in the media, and also given what the polling data suggests about Iowa as a whole, that here's this very proudly conservative senator saying things that a lot of independents maybe don't agree with. And I'm wondering, did you think about that at all? You obviously you won by 5 points, so you didn't have a problem winning your district.
Correct.
But did you think about that? Did you anticipate this kind of getting this dust up happening when you decided to take your time?
I guess I'd try not to consider a whole lot what it's going to do to my possibilities of being reelected. If I'm going to worry about that the whole time I'm here, I don't really need to be here. I need to stand for what I believe the citizens of my district wanted me to stand for, and I need to stay true to what I stand for. And if I can do that for 4 years, that's better than if I'm here 20 years and I compromise on everything.
Absolutely. Were your views on homosexuality a part of your campaign?
Actually, I campaigned quite a bit on having the opportunity to vote on the marriage amendment, the Iowa marriage amendment, and that was a part of my campaign. So
couched more broadly as a political message rather than your specific views that you expressed during your privileged time.
I don't know as I expressed that many personal views during that time. I was expressing facts that I came off of a couple of websites, the Center for Disease Control, and the other one was the College of Pediatricians.
I noticed that because I listened to it today just to kind of listen to the whole thing, and my sense of it was here's a guy who's speaking sincerely about the things that he is interested in, and I always appreciate that. And I'm wondering, and so when I went to your website and I was looking around just to get some context about you, I noticed, and you talked about 2009, and I have it here in front of me. I noticed that on your website you say, back in 2009, when the Iowa Supreme Court issued an opinion on same-sex couples could not be denied the right to obtain a marriage license, you're reminded of a quote from English philosopher Sir Edmund Burke. He said, "All that's required for the triumph of evil is that good men do nothing." And what did you mean by that?
I meant that anytime good men don't get involved in the process, bad things are going to happen. In this case, I was talking about a couple of different things. I don't agree with the concept of calling a union between two same-sex people a marriage, and I also don't agree with the way that the Supreme Court came at this and the fact that the legislature and the people were not involved in it. I think that the government of the people, by the people, and for the people should include the people. And in this case, we had 7 Supreme Court justices that played the role of legislator and executive branch too.
All right. Now, we are going to have to take a quick break. We are with our special guest, Senator Dennis Guth, who has very graciously decided to join us tonight to discuss his views on the legislative process, homosexuality, DOMA, all that's going to be coming up right after the break. We'll be back. You're listening to Doc and Lefty on webcast1live.com. We will return with our special guest, State Senator Dennis Guth, in just a minute.
Drug and alcohol addiction slowly steals a person's identity, tearing away pieces of their life little by little until one day it seems like the hope of a happy future is gone and there's no chance of getting it back. Here at St. Gregory Retreat Centers, we can assure you that there is hope. Our unique approach to recovery begins with the understanding that the dysfunction and damage caused by addiction can be overcome, not just dealt with. Don't let another day go by. Call St. Gregory today.
Drink, dance, party. Kitty's is the ultimate dance club in Des Moines. A huge dance floor with room to move, 3 bars to keep your drinks full, and kickin' DJs playing all your favorite dance music. At Kitty's, we've always got your birthday party planned with Birthday Fridays. That's right, when your birthday rolls around, there's only one place to go. Gather up your friends and head to Kitty's, where you drink free on the Friday of your birthday week. Find out more about Birthday Fridays at kittiesusa.com. Kitty's, all kinds of people, all kinds of music, all kinds of fun.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast 1 Live.
This is Doc with Doc and Lefty. You're listening to us on webcast1live.com. We have a very special guest in our studio, State Senator Dennis Guth. He's from District 4, right? Isn't that the district?
Correct.
All right. And that's way up in the frozen tundra of North Iowa. And Lefty has been doing, I would think, a pretty good job of getting our readers or our listeners informed of your stances and why you think that way. We were just kind of in the middle of discussing DOMA and the Supreme Court decision in 2009. One of the things we talked a little bit about in the break is, when I talk to my brother is a very conservative lawyer, and one time he came on the show, and both Lefty and my brother agreed. And of course, I've disagreed with that decision. I think the first part's good. I think the second, that was Lefty's back, by the way. It was.
No, I didn't mean to get the camera shot. I apologize.
Right. Oh, he's trying to hog the limelight. Anyway, he and after that, talking to lawyers, they all seemed to agree that it was the wrong decision, wrong approach to make. But from the way I read this, the Supreme Court basically, there's a lot of issues that it came down to. But one of the things they mentioned was the property rights that if you restrict marriage strictly to a man and a woman, there's a lot of property rights that go along with being married that people of the same sex don't get. So my question to you is, if you introduce another DOMA, how are you going to phrase it so that the Supreme Court doesn't fall back on the property rights issue again?
Well, we still got DOMA. I don't think I need to introduce another one. It's still on the books.
Yeah, I feel like there was a little bit. Iowa didn't really have necessarily a Defense of Marriage Act per se, which is a federal statute that basically says that states don't have to recognize the same-sex marriages of other states. It's kind of a narrow sort of thing. As an attorney, I feel like it's a little bit weird with the full faith and credit clause, but I mean that's what they're kind of talking about now. I'm not a Supreme Court justice. I have nothing really to add to that.
I think I guess maybe the better question I should have asked is, where do you go from here as far as the gay marriage issue?
Well, what I would like to see happen is have Senator Gronstal bring the marriage amendment out of committee so that it can be debated on the floor and we can begin the process of allowing the people to vote. That doesn't mean we're going to successfully enact the marriage amendment, but we at least should be letting the people of Iowa have the opportunity to vote on that issue.
Now, do you the marriage amendment itself as an amendment to the Constitution, not
Correct.
necessarily going back and trying to introduce legislation that would just be found unconstitutional again?
That's correct.
Okay. My question then, I mean, with the and this is a pure political question. That may have been something possible maybe 10 years ago, but as you know, this has just been the politics of same-sex marriage have been changing just exponentially fast. I mean, seeing conservative Republicans coming out in favor of it now after losing a couple of national elections, things like that it's been just stunning over the last 10, 15 years, and even the last couple of years. I'm wondering if the amendment gets voted down by a popular vote, what then? Because it seems to be pointing in that general direction in the state, at least from my reading of the more recent poll data that says that Iowa is kind of flipping the switch on same-sex marriage.
Well, I don't think that Iowa is necessarily going to go the same way that you're saying we are nationally. I think the media has spun this as something that has more of a tide moving toward supporting the homosexual lifestyle than what is actually out there. I've received an awful lot of mail that's encouraging me for what I've said and saying that there are a lot of us out here that don't have anyone to stand up and speak for them. It's just very difficult to speak on this issue because of the backlash that there is when you speak out on it. And I think we've basically been bullied into silence. So I think there's a pretty good chance that the marriage amendment would pass. If it doesn't pass, I guess we'll have to deal with that when it comes.
And that's getting into my next point. I mean, I don't see that I saw in your bio that you had been associated with the family leader in the past. Have you worked for them on their board, or what was your?
I never worked for them. I was on their board.
You were on the board, sure. And just, I didn't want to impute a relationship that wasn't there, obviously, but that you were associated with them and you obviously agree with the stance that the family leader takes. As far
I can't guarantee 100% on that, but pretty much I do, yes.
Yeah, well, at least their stance on same-sex marriage, that they, the amendment and giving people a popular vote.
That's correct.
I guess one of the questions, I don't see the family leader, and I certainly don't see Bob Vander Plaats, and maybe you two can argue with me about this, who's kind of made a political career about this particular issue. I don't think that's saying anything unfair about Mr. Vander Plaats. I don't see them stopping anytime soon, even if they were to lose that vote. I mean, what are your thoughts about that? Like just saying, well, the people voted, we can all kind of go home.
Well, in order to put that in context, if we were going to vote tomorrow, there might make sense, but it's going to be at the minimum 3 years from now before we'll be able to vote anyhow. And I just can't predict what the environment is going to be like 3 years from now. 3 years from now, maybe it'll be obvious that we need to direct someplace else. I don't think necessarily that this would be something that we would lose. I think this is an opportunity to pass this, and of course that's why I've been promoting it.
What would be, of course, what's your explanation for the retention of Justice David Wiggins 2 years later after the campaign to get rid of the other three was so successful? Honestly, it was. I remember watching those returns come in 2010, and I was shocked by the level at which people voted on that. And then I was equally shocked, given that history, equally shocked at the level of people who voted to keep Dave Wiggins, somebody who I know personally. And it was very surprising to me. Whereas in 2010, when Bob Hansen, the judge that actually ruled on the original district court case here in Polk County, was retained by about 80% of a retention vote. And so I'm just curious, is there an explanation between the disparate? It seems like Iowa is just swinging wildly one way and the other in this.
Yeah, I think there's probably at least three different factors in that. One is it was farther away from the 2009 ruling, and people didn't have that in their mind near as much. Another is that we had President Obama at the top of the ticket, and I think a lot of the more left-leaning people were out to vote. Everybody was out there to vote, and some of the conservatives just stayed home. They didn't come out just to vote on the justices, and they didn't have a conservative that they wanted to support, so they just stayed home.
Now, we have to take a quick break. We'll be back here in about 3 minutes. Please listen to our sponsors. They're the ones that keep our doors open. We are with State Senator Dennis Guth. We'll be back right after the break, and we'll start discussing more in depth his controversial statement from last week, and we'll see what he has to say. Thank you, everybody, for joining in. Feel free to call 855-244-0077. Senator Guth will be glad to take any questions you may have. We'll be back right after the break.
Leach, owner and general manager of Service Legends. I brought along a couple of the home comfort heroes.
Hi, I'm Tammy Wells.
I am Nick Wondershot.
I am administrative manager.
I am the senior technician
from Service Legends.
It seems like every good thing, when you feel it to the bone that it's good, there's a lot of hard work put behind it. I don't think that you can fake it and have it turn out good.
You know, if we seem like, okay, that's just weird, it's just a furnace, why would you believe so deeply in a furnace? It's not just that, you know, we want to show the world that you can have good service.
Yeah, I mean, it's got to be, it's your home.
You know, it's built into our daily trainings, it's built into our culture, that we're going to do whatever it takes to have each client say they love us, period.
That's why we spend all the hours in the training that we do. And if we guarantee it's going to be a good experience for you, or else it's free, what type of work do you think we're going to do?
There is a guarantee.
Temperature selection guarantee, fixed right or it's free guarantee, comfort guarantee, best value guarantee. All of these guarantees hold us accountable to ensuring that we exceed your expectations. And if for whatever reason we'd fail and we can't make it right, we guarantee all of those guarantees with a 100% money back guarantee.
I mean, if you don't think that your technician can fix it right, are you going to say that to a client? No.
You don't have to worry about having a technician come to your house.
We drug test, background check all of our team members. We put safe people in your home. Each and every one of our service techs, 400 hours a year in training.
You tell it the minute they walk in the door. They know what they're doing, they've done their homework, and they actually truly care about what you want.
Because at the end of the day, you're the person that makes sure I have a job.
They're going to be listening. They're going to want to know what your challenges are. Then they're going to come and give you options, and you get to choose.
If I'm there to help and I make it easy and painless, I did my job right that day.
Well, when it comes to your comfort, safety, and your family, you know, you don't necessarily go buy the most expensive, but you get the most bang for your buck.
Oh, it's worth it, because there's a lot of people that will find a way to get it to work right now and then leave, and then come back, charge you again, and the cycle just repeats itself. So when I'm out there looking at the furnace, I want to find why it failed today. How can we change the part today with something that you're not going to have to worry about? Is it worth changing the part today? I mean, you can put a lot of money into a furnace. I can fix parts all day. There's good job security in that for me, but is it the right thing for you?
I get a lot of the phone calls of after the technicians are there. They're just in awe. They're like, wow, you guys are great. I mean, I don't even know what to say. You guys are great. Everything you did was perfect. It was great.
Keep going though, I like this.
Just give us a try. I'm gonna take all the risk.
I've got the time to make this right. I've got the support to make it right.
Just check us out.
And if you don't see the value in what we do,
I mean, fixed right or it's free or 100% money back.
enough said.
This is Doc with Doc and Lefty. You listen to us every Tuesday from 6 to 7 p.m. here on webcast1live.com. We have a very special guest in our studio, Senator Dennis Guth. Senator, during the break, we kind of discussed a little bit about, the Register articles. My question to you as a failed politician versus a successful politician, do you find the coverage that the Register gives you is fair and balanced and accurate? Or do you find that it's, that they often misquote what you say or take different quotes out? I just want to know how they have treated you throughout this controversy.
Now, I haven't been up on all the articles that the Register has had on me. What I have seen of them, I thought they have been pretty balanced and fair. I was very pleased with how they handled the whole situation. Now, I haven't read it all, so I can't say that that's always the case, but what I've seen has been very good.
Now, I noticed that people who followed this at all and I'm sure that you're kind of getting tired of it by this point because it's been a solid 7 days, but notice that Senator Matt McCoy, who is, now I forget which district he's from off the top of my head, but I believe he's out, and he's been out for a while.
Correct.
As a homosexual senator from Iowa, and he had a pretty tough response to what he had to say. And you told us over the break that you actually responded to him yesterday. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And I apologize, Senator, for not kind of following it more closely. I didn't get to hear it or read up on it. Can you just kind of tell the listeners a little bit about what your response to Senator McCoy was?
Yes, trying to remember here as closely as possible. What I said was I was disappointed that as I attempted to have a day of dialogue, that we didn't seem to have much dialogue. It was more of an opportunity for name calling and character assassination. And I was expecting more than that from the Senate floor. However, I didn't want to escalate. We have plenty of business to do down there. Mm-hmm. So what I said on the floor was I don't want to escalate at this point. Senator McCoy, let's do lunch sometime and get to know each other, talk about something other than politics, and see if we can find some common ground.
Now, the Des Moines Register article, just to throw this out, said that he accepted your invitation for lunch. You're going to go to the East Village, or said we could go and eat in the East Village, and apparently he wants to take a stroll past the Blazing Saddle, which is a gay bar. Now, being a conservative, I've only been there a few times just for the music, but it's a great place to go on a Friday night if you just want to go have a lot of fun. What do you think of that itinerary? This is just straight out of the Des Moines Register article that they published yesterday. So I don't know if are you in agreement to something like that?
Senator McCoy has not spoken with me personally yet. This has so far been only between Senator McCoy and the Des Moines Register.
Okay, fair enough.
So when Senator McCoy comes and speaks with me, we'll decide where we're going to go from there.
All right. Well, because his quote in here is, I certainly would welcome him to come down to the East Village and meet some of the folks who represent some of the diversity I'm proud to call my capital. Asked if that would include a trip to the Blazing Saddle, McCoy said the gay bar isn't normally open for lunch, but they could walk past the tavern to show Guth what diversity looks like and introduce some of the folks that I've come to care a great deal about. So that's the entire quote from Senator McCoy. And I don't mean, I'm not trying to do a gotcha thing, but I was reading that and I thought, that's kind of a poke in the eye.
A little bit. And I think that maybe once the two of you are able to actually talk about this person to person, this is all kind of, and even this is a little bit of a media proxy as well. And so just, we don't have as large of an office as the Register seems to have.
No.
But what I did want to ask you about, though, is that he had some specific things to say about your relationship to homosexuality. And I'm just going to kind of ask some direct questions. That's okay. Do you have a personal problem with Senator McCoy as a homosexual?
No, I don't believe that I do. I think it's obviously I think that it's not always the healthiest lifestyle. Mm-hmm. I think there's consequences beyond that. As a Christian, I believe that there will be a consequence that lasts far longer than he's anticipating. And because I care about people in general, I would like him to be aware of that.
Do you know Senator McCoy personally?
No, I do not. We have only spoken a few times this session.
And before, and I obviously haven't spoken since this all kind of fell out.
No.
Do you have any personal friends who you know are homosexuals?
I don't have any close friends that way.
I
would certainly be willing to reach out to Senator McCoy and do that sort of thing, though. I think that's a part of what I want to do here, is I want to build a relationship. That's why it's maybe not the right thing to do to try and publicize this a whole lot. It's not like I want to invite a bunch of reporters along with us. I want to talk about baseball or whatever is interesting to him and find out who Matt McCoy really is.
Hey, no, that sounds great to me, and to hear someone kind of at the center of this kind of maybe. And you've done a really decent job over this last week of not kind of going out and saying a whole bunch of other stuff and kind of adding on, because I don't think, just from talking to you today, I don't know if that's necessarily what you're about. But I did want to talk a little bit about some of the specific things you had to say, and because in the spirit of dialogue, as you said, you pulled some quotes from. Not some quote. You didn't quote anything necessarily, but you referred to some things about a website called factsaboutyouth.com. You said on this show about the American College of Pediatrics, and you cited some CDC statistics about some STIs and depression. I think I got everything. Right.
Well, that's pretty much. You can find a lot more on those websites if you'd like to go there.
Well, I did, and I looked through some of the stuff, and I wanted to call everybody's attention to the fact that the CDC does agree with you, obviously, since you looked it up as well. The CDC agrees, and I found this to be stunning in the last few years, like that since the mid-90s, that the rates of HIV infections for everybody has been fairly consistent. About 50,000 is what they say. It's been fairly consistent over the years. But in the last few years, in the last like 4 or 5 years, the estimated new HIV infections among what they call as men having sex with men, and this is from the CDC, not myself, and I have their fact sheet in front of me, has seen a kind of a sharp increase over the last few years. Now, they don't make the conclusions that you do about this. In fact, they don't make conclusions at all. They just present the data and then say that there are some other studies. But if the levels have been fairly consistent, would not over the years, would not the spike be attributable to something other than the lifestyle, as you put it? Possibly.
I have no idea. I'm not a researcher, and I wasn't a part of any of that.
Okay, but no, of course you weren't a part of any of that. But I'm wondering, is the
spike related? I mean, the spike could be related to several different things, including the fact that we have new medications that promise a cure for HIV. And in fact, on Fox News, on the website today, they're talking about how they're going to cure somebody with HIV with a blood from an infant and something else. I can't remember the exact article. But basically, I think what Lefty's trying to ask is the spike that apparently you quoted, do you think it could be what? Sorry, go ahead.
Well, no, he didn't quote anything. He just pointed people to the studies.
Right. Do you think it could be related to anything besides the spike, besides the homosexual lifestyle?
Because
There's another one of the facts.
And that's just, we just want an opinion. We won't hold your feet to the fire, call you names.
Another one of the facts that was on that site is that MSM, the men having sex with men, have been diagnosed with new diagnosis for HIV 44 times as often as other men. My whole point in the whole conversation is when there is a youth who's questioning and doesn't know what he wants to do, I want them to have all the facts before they start experimenting.
All right.
Absolutely.
Now we're going to Senator Guth has been very kind to come in with us today, and he's been very patient. We know he's really busy. We will be back after the break. Please stay tuned and listen in to our sponsors because they're the ones who keep our doors open. Hopefully we'll be back with State Senator Guth right after this quick break. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. This is Doc with Doc and Lefty, listening to us on webcast1live.com.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Whether you're 10, 25, 50, 80 years old and beyond, everyone needs to live within their means. I'm Tom Coates with Consumer Credit of America. For almost a quarter of a century, we've helped people of all ages learn to manage their personal finances to benefit them far into the future. When problems arise, we've got the experience you need to make those debt problems go away. Got financial problems? Call Consumer Credit of America.
If Tom Coates from Consumer Credit of America was your personal webmaster, Tom would filter out all bad debt emails. If Tom was your mailman, you'd never get any debt reduction junk mail. If Tom Coates was a lineman, he'd block any phone calls offering to reduce your credit card debt.
Hi, I'm Tom Coates with Consumer Credit of America, and we're still your best choice for credit counseling. We're local, we're accountable, and we can do more. You make the call when the time's right for you.
When it comes to competition, there really is none for Consumer Credit of America.
This is Doc with Doc and Lefty. Thanks for coming right on back. We got State Senator Dennis Guth with us today. Lefty was going over some statistics, and Lefty, why don't you continue on, kind of talking about a little bit about what we're talking about?
Well, I appreciate that, Doc. Thanks a lot. And Senator, once again, I do thank you very much.
Absolutely
for coming down, because I know that this has been a weird week. The District 4 doesn't get a lot of press, and I know that wasn't your intention when this all happened. But it was just sort of the thing that happens nowadays. People say something that that's a little bit controversial, and it really takes off. I did have some specific questions about some of the specific things that you said, and I also wanted to kind of to chat with you a little bit about, and I know that you're busy, and so I'm going to try and keep this as brief as possible. Some of the alternative things that are out there, because you've been saying that you want people to have all the facts, and you say about the Facts About Youth website. Facts About Youth is presented by the American College of Pediatrics. At least that's what from my review of the website.
Right.
And are you familiar with their work at all?
That's some of the information that I used as I prepared my talk. Now, I haven't been extensively through all of it, but we've perused through it pretty well.
Okay. Do you know the history of the American College at all?
No, I do not.
Okay. You know that, well, do you find them to be a more credible source than the American Academy of Pediatrics? Do you know about the American Academy at all?
No, I don't think I'm going to try and compare any of those, because I haven't gone and exhaustively checked what kind of credentials they have, how long they've been around, or any of that sort of thing.
Sure. Now, I'm just curious. And I'll just tell you this: the American Academy of Pediatrics has a different point of view than the American College of Pediatrics. But you haven't gone through the academy at all. You haven't looked at what they've had to say.
Yeah. Well, let me speak to that. A lot of these academies versus colleges versus other things, physicians are splintered. Like I'm fond of pointing out, with Obamacare having the AMA stamp of approval, they only represent 12% of physicians. There's a bunch of other colleges that physicians will join as specialties. And a lot of times what you have is people that do the same research, look at the same research, and then come up with completely different analysis. So, I mean, as far as, the college versus everything else, a lot of that is just politics within medicine.
Well, hold on a second. I'm going to stop you right there. And this is the issue that I have with this stuff, because it's not, the name is not important. And I didn't want to get into the history of the ACPE or whatever it's called. Yeah. But I mean, if we can, because the American Academy has been around since 1930.
Yeah, and I know all that.
Yeah, and because you work with kids, and the American College, at least from what I was able to tell, started in 2002 as a direct response and objection to the American Academy of Pediatrics coming out and saying that homosexuals should be able to adopt kids. And so it has nothing. So if it's political,
it is political.
It has to do with this faction splintering off.
100%. That's what I just said. It's a lot of these things split off because of different political agendas.
Okay,
anyway, back to Senator Guth.
I understand.
He's got to go.
I understand, but
Sorry.
Do you ascribe a political motive to either of these, one or the other?
I'm not ascribing anything to either one.
Okay. But would you rely on one more than the other?
I guess I wasn't aware of everything out there. We went and we searched till we found what we thought looked like credible information, and we're looking mainly at data.
And they're both credible. I mean, they're both respected. They're both credible. It really does boil down to politics of it.
Okay.
One of the questions I want to ask is, you're quoted as saying the public has been bamboozled into accepting same-sex relationships. What factors come into this bamboozling, for lack of a better term?
That is an interesting term. What I'm saying is, for the last, at least 2 decades, I would say that the media, where you're talking about movies, television shows, whatever, has done all that they can to shed a good light on the homosexual lifestyle, and very seldom do we ever see a family on a regular TV program in the evenings or in a movie where you have the old father knows best sort of a family, where you have dad that works all day, mom stays home with the kids, and
in other words, traditional families are absent in large measure from the media.
Correct. Or many times when they do have a traditional family, the father is made to look like a fool, and mom is the one who really runs the show in the background.
Yeah, like shows like King of Queens, the Jim Belushi one, Life According to Jim.
Yeah, and I understand all that. Do we think that that's a particular effort proactively, or do you think that's a reflection of art imitating life? I mean, Father Knows Best. Let's going back to the 50s and the 60s. The country itself has changed a lot since then, irrespective of the family structure. And so I feel like when I see that kind of stuff, and I've noted it myself, I don't see it as this effort by someone to impose a different worldview. I see it as a reflection of what's already out there.
I can't completely disagree with that. I think it's more of a combination of both of those, and there's certainly plenty of very genuine, honest people out there that are trying to reflect what they see all around them. But the things that I've seen have always been far ahead of what I see here in Iowa. And maybe it's coming from California or wherever, but I think it's a part of pushing us a little further down the road all the time.
All right. Well, Senator, we got about a minute left, and then we know you have to go. Is there anything you want to say to your constituency out there? Is there anything in particular you would like to clarify from your time spent with us today? And
no.
If you don't have anything you want to clarify, then we'll continue to bug you for another 30 seconds or so. How's that?
Well, I just do appreciate the opportunity to talk with everyone here in a not overly combative sort of situation, which it tends to be very often when we talk about any subject like this. So I appreciate the opportunity, and just pray that all people that are hearing this broadcast are going to keep an open mind.
All right. I want to personally thank Senator Guth for showing up on such a short notice to discuss an issue that really is quite polarizing. And I want to appreciate your time. I really want to thank you for stopping in. We'll be back right after the break. We're going to continue our discussion regarding the bombers and the Chechnyan connection and all that other stuff. Special thanks to Senator Guth for showing up. We'll be back in a minute. Please listen for our sponsors. You're listening to Doc and Lefty on webcast1live.com.
Troche and Associates will provide you with a friendly, caring, and confidential place to find help for mental health concerns. We are ready for your call. We are proud to work with military personnel and their families. Our doctor, Dr. J. Patrick Bertroche, provides a full range of psychiatric services for children, adolescents, and adults in a forthright and informative manner while maintaining a casual, comfortable, and relaxed atmosphere. Our licensed mental health therapists provide individual counseling to children, adolescents, and adults, including couples and marital counseling. Visit our website at bertrocheandassociates.com for more information or call 515-334-9484. Our offices are located at 5525 Meredith Drive in Des Moines, just east of Skate North off Merle Hay Road. Isn't it time to talk to someone? Take care of yourself and your family. Contact Bertroche and Associates.
This is Doc with Doc and Lefty. You know, I really enjoyed that discussion. I thought that was great that Senator Guth would take time out of his day to come down and see us like that.
I do too, and I'm going to lay into you a little bit.
Oh, all right. Let's have it.
I'm going to lay into you a little bit because I want to make this clear, absolutely 100% clear that this has nothing to do with the senator that I'm about to that you and I are about to talk about, because he sat there and answered all the questions and stuff, and said that he looked up a bunch of stuff but couldn't find everything, obviously, and that makes complete sense to me. So this has nothing to do with any of his comments. It has something to do with what you said, talking about these two organizations and ascribing political motivations to these scientists. And that is the biggest crock about this whole debate that ever gets perpetrated by anybody, because I went on and I found the amicus brief that the APA, the American Psychological Association, California Psychological Association, submitted in the Prop 8 debate, or the Prop 8 court case in the Ninth Circuit. And if you think that there is some sort of like political consensus about all of these scientists, and I'm showing pages and pages of source material that they relied on to write this brief, when they say empirical studies prove, well, not necessarily prove, empirical studies demonstrate across the board that the homosexual lifestyle is not unhealthy, that the homosexual that gay men and lesbian women can raise kids, the political auspices are coming from the other side. They're coming from these groups like the American College of Pediatrics, who formed in 2002, who have they don't disclose their membership, have between 60 and 200 members. That's been estimated, whereas the American Academy of Pediatrics has 60,000. APA, and so that's what I'm trying to say. The political stuff is coming from the folks who are against this. They're the ones who are politically motivated just by the great weight of research that's been done on both sides, on the one side as opposed to the other. That's all I have to say about it.
And I agree. And I agree that, well, like I said, it was a political, a lot of these splinter groups, if you want to call them that, really are politically motivated. And you can look at the same studies and come to a completely different conclusion. That's one of the things I always tell my students. Experts often aren't, right? When you read a study, you have to look at the bias that they're coming from. I can look at any of these studies they submitted and went, well, hold on. Here's a flaw in this study. Here's a flaw in that study. So, I mean, from my perspective, we're agreeing on this issue 95%. It's that 5% that I think maybe you're taking issue that they're not respected. Or something. I'm not quite sure what you're taking issue
well,
about.
Well, you're ascribing a bias to the scientific. You're doing a false equivalency is what you're doing. You're ascribing bias to both sides of this debate. And what I want to, and what I can't, excuse me, that was awesome.
That was.
I apologize for that. What I can't ever understand is the folks who are looking at the evidence, doing the research, doing the empirical studies that they've been doing since the 70s, since the APA came out and said that it's not a mental illness anymore. They've all concluded over and over and over and over again that it's not that big of a deal. What would they gain? What political motivation could they possibly have to as people say, support the gay agenda. That's what I don't understand. It seems to me that when you come out and you put the American College of Pediatrics, which is this group run by a guy who got mad and left, up against the American Academy of Pediatrics that's been around since 1930, is an august organization with 60,000 in the membership. When you put them on the same footing, I feel like it's a disservice. I feel like it doesn't do it. It completely undercuts what folks who spend their careers doing this stuff do, and I don't think it's right. And I don't think you should be able to rely on that stuff. You should put that with a grain of salt because of this idea of we're gonna keep people from being accepted as normal in society.
I don't know what to say to that except that they're both respected. I don't know how you can say, well, one's more respected than the other because it's older and has more established members. There's controversy within the APA. There's controversy within the ACPA. There's controversy within my own ranks. Mm-hmm. There's all kinds of things, and but
I'm saying the biases aren't equivalent. That's my point. The biases aren't equivalent.
But they are.
How so?
Well, because you have a group of people leading an agenda. One of the things.
What's the gay agenda? Tell me what the gay agenda is.
Well, they want to have they
want equality. It's a shame.
Oh, now come on! Don't even start with me with that stuff. I wish Dennis Guth was in here.
No, I didn't want this discussion ascribed to him at all. I didn't want him associated with this.
I'm going to tell you. I hate it when I'm put in a position where I have to defend something I'm not 100% behind. But I can tell you the gay agenda is to get the same kind of property rights, essentially, that people that aren't gay get. But the problem is they want to keep saying, well, geez, this is normal. This is what it should be. Your kids should be gay. We should be teaching gay sexuality.
No one's saying that, though.
No, but they're teaching gay sexuality in the schools. Now, for me, I don't think they ought to be teaching any kind of sexuality in the schools. I think that they should have the equal property rights. We both know gay couples that have been screwed by the court system when the families step in. All right?
Yes, that's true.
And so we both have that. Now, the thing is it's not that they want equality. They want more than equality.
What does that mean?
Well, because they want their lifestyle taught in school. We don't teach heterosexuality in school. We don't teach that. We don't go, well, geez, little Susie homemaker and little Tony auto worker, that's what you need to do, and that's all okay. But you have all these other books. You have all this other stuff going on that says, geez, this is okay in being in the homosexual lifestyle. I have gay cousins. I have transgender cousins. I know that happens. I don't think that should be the norm. I don't think it should be taught in school.
And so what you're telling me then is that you're okay with marginalizing a community and thereby perpetuating the same kind of isolation and negative psychological impacts that these people have been experiencing for decades.
Well, part of the problem is you always do this to me in the last minute of the show. Next week, we're coming back. We're going to talk about the media and its impact on our society. I think you and I will agree a lot. I think we're going to disagree a lot. We have to close out the show. We got about 6 seconds left. I want to thank all of our sponsors and Senator Dennis Guth for coming in. And I want to thank Lefty for always showing up and being able to have a decent discussion with me and get the people involved.
I love you, man.
I love you too. Hey, and you know who else loves us? Brad's on.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everybody, tuning in. We'll be back next week.
Love these guys. Get over here. Love both of them.